Max Pacioretty and Dylan Coghlan for future considerations. We already made a video about this very big trade yesterday when the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes made the deal, but I just wanted to focus on this trade a little bit more in today's show. Mostly because when it comes to Max Pacioretty and the impact that he has as a hockey player. We already talked about this in the previous video, but he's a good player, point-per-game caliber guy, making $7 million a year, and the Vegas Golden Knights, because they're so crunched under the cap ever since acquiring Jack Eichel, just had to get rid of this guy for future considerations, pretty much for nothing, because they could not afford to keep him around. Now, that's not a disrespectful slight to him. It's not that he's not worth the money, it's just the Vegas Golden Knights kind of suck at their asset management. And that's what this video is going to focus on, the Golden Knights and their asset management, because when it comes to that very particular Max Pacioretty in the first place, the reason Vegas even had him was because of a very big trade made with the Montreal Canadiens back in, 2018? So, we're taking a trip down memory lane via a tweet that Frank Saravalli made that kind of ignites the entire tree as to how Max Pacioretty was even sent away for nothing here. Ultimately, this boils down to what the Vegas Golden Knights ended up giving up to get Max Pacioretty in the first place, and long story short, it's very, very ugly. So, as we all know, Max Pacioretty was a former Montreal Canadien, and in fact, he was one of the better Canadiens that team had had in quite some time. He was the captain for the team for, 3 seasons, something like that, and then in the 2018 offseason, he got shipped over to the Vegas Golden Knights. The package in return was then former first-round pick Nick Suzuki. You had yourselves another draft pick that eventually was traded down for to become Mattias Norlinder, but for the sake of keeping things simple, let's just keep the draft pick as it is. And then you also had Tomas Tatar heading over to the Montreal Canadiens in what was a deal where the Habs sent their captain over to the brand new Vegas Golden Knights squad. Now, if you take a look at the draft pick, it was sent around a little bit here and there, but eventually if you just look at only that draft pick in isolation, that pick was sent over to the LA Kings. It became Samuel Fagemo, who is a prospect that I very much like. He is a guy out of Sweden who I think has middle six scoring potential at the National Hockey League level. He was a 44-point guy in 63 games with the Ontario Reign this recent season. But you also had Nick Suzuki and Tomas Tatar. Suzuki, as we know, is probably one of the candidates to become the next Montreal Canadiens captain, and when you take a look at what he is for the Habs right now, he is pretty much the heartbeat of that center core. He's making $7.875 million a year to the end of 2030, where he'll be, 30? And he posted up a boatload of points this season, 61 points in 82 games played, 21 goals as well. Despite the fact that he was a -29, I think Canadiens fans can unanimously agree that when it comes to Canadiens that are going to take the team into the future, you've got Juraj Slafkovsky, you've got Cole Caulfield, and you have Nick Suzuki leading that charge. He might even be the next captain, ladies and gentlemen. That's how much of an impact he has had. You also have Tomas Tatar, who eventually became a pretty solid two-way winger for the Canadiens while also putting up points. He is no longer with Montreal. He signed a contract in UFA status a few years ago to go to the New Jersey Devils. But things get really interesting when you acknowledge why Tomas Tatar was even a Vegas Golden Knight in the first place. Tatar, before being a Vegas Golden Knight to get sent over to the Montreal Canadiens, was a Detroit Red Wing, where he was sent over to Vegas in exchange for a package that included a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick. So if you follow the tree to everything that went down a few days ago with Max Pacioretty, you have the Frank Saravalli tweet firstly that kind of started this all. We talked about this in the video, but we'll reread it just so it can refresh your memory over here. Here are some players that the Vegas Golden Knights have been forced to unload for no or minimal return due to their salary cap crunch. Cody Eakin, Paul Stastny, Nate Schmidt, Marc-Andre Fleury, Evgeny Dadonov, and Max Pacioretty. Now, Schmidt was sent away for a third, Fleury was sent away for a player they eventually terminated, so he was pretty much sent away for nothing. Dadonov also sent away for minimal return, not to mention Stastny and Eakin as well. And then Max Pacioretty was traded alongside of Dylan Coghlan to the Carolina Hurricanes, plus that $7 million AAV salary that he had for future considerations, which is essentially nothing. Frank then replies to himself saying this: "It's not exactly a masterclass in asset management." To get Pacioretty, for instance, Vegas gave up Nick Suzuki, a second-round pick which eventually became Samuel Fagemo, and Tomas Tatar. To get Tatar, Vegas gave up a first, a second, and a third. On and on and on. So what the Vegas Golden Knights essentially did here was they gave up a first, a second, a third, Nick Suzuki, and another second for nothing. For free. You could even include Coghlan in there. Okay, Coghlan, a first, 2 seconds, a third, and Nick Suzuki. For free. We meme all the time about how Vegas has these expiration dates for all their players, and we've seen this in practice the past few years. But Max Pacioretty being at the forefront of that now kind of changes the picture as to how Vegas has gone out there and done this, because Max Pacioretty is legitimately a very, very good hockey player still. Now, I know you could say the same thing about Marc-Andre Fleury when he was traded for pretty much nothing as well. He was coming off a Vezina winning season that year, but to be fair, it kind of made sense because there was the Robin Lehner situation and everybody knew that there was a goaltending controversy in Vegas, and so one guy had to go. Marc-Andre Fleury happened to be older, so he was the guy to go. At least there was somewhat of a justifiable reason behind that. It doesn't make it any less shady that Fleury did not realize he was traded until he saw the thing pop up on Twitter. Definitely not the best way to go out there treating your star players, your award-winning caliber players in Vegas, but this Pacioretty thing takes it another step further, because it's like, you're not even getting the buyoutable player in return. You're just getting future considerations. You're freeing up $7.7 million in cap because Pacioretty with the $7 million plus Dylan Coghlan with his $700,000 was not enough for you to stomach. Vegas ultimately turned Nick Suzuki, another first, 2 seconds, a third, and Dylan Coghlan for nothing. If you took a time machine back to 2017 and you told everybody there, hey, Nick Suzuki is eventually going to get traded from Vegas, you know, he's going to be one of the top ever Vegas Golden Knights picks in the history of that franchise. Cody Glass would have been the first, by the way, he's gone too. You're going to take Suzuki, who is going to be the best player out of the three, by the way. The best out of the first-round picks the Golden Knights had in 2017 between Brannstrom, Glass, and Suzuki. They're all gone, by the way. Nick Suzuki is going to become future captain material in Montreal. And the player you acquire, Max Pacioretty, is eventually going to get sent away for nothing after 4 years doing his thing in Vegas and being a legitimately good hockey player. There's nobody in Vegas that says that this trade is a positive trade. It's just kind of the circumstance of you handcuffing yourself when you try to get involved with every big-name player under the sun. Jack Eichel, Alex Pietrangelo, you had to move out Schmidt, you got Stone, you got Pacioretty. Now what? You have no money left, and you're forced to make moves like this, where at the end of the day, your assets are being tracked so poorly year by year. If you take all of the investments that you have made and the picks and the players and all that, and you visualize how everything has gone, it's absolutely terrible. You turn Fleury into nothing. You turn Max Pacioretty into nothing. You turned all these other players into minimal picks that are definitely not in the same territory of value as the players themselves. Vegas, yeah, it's kind of rough, isn't it? Talk to me in the comments all your thoughts about this Pacioretty trade and what it kind of signals for Nick Suzuki and everything else and all the other players that were involved here. Tomas Tatar, the first, the second, the third. I'll admit, I liked the Tatar trade, mostly because the Red Wings are my third favorite team, and I was like, hey, look at that. Vegas is really desperate to do something in the playoffs, eh? A first, a second, and a third for Tomas Tatar? Sign me up, baby. And then eventually Tatar was sent over to Montreal in the Suzuki Pacioretty trade, and I became a fan of him all over again because he was a Hab, and the Habs are my second favorite team. So it was cool for me seeing everything go down, but definitely from the fan base's perspective of Vegas fans, it's not the best way to go out there and start managing your assets, isn't it? So talk in the comments your thoughts about Vegas, the Pacioretty trade, Suzuki, etc. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj 99, and bye.